First story. OP caught her stepdaughter bullying her disabled kid, and even physically assaulting them. So she refused to let her move in permanently, and is forced to move in with her biological mom, who grounded her and took all privileges. I have been married to my husband for 6 years. We have 2 kids together, 8M and 4M. Our youngest has special needs. My husband also has a daughter, 12, from his previous relationship. My husband's ex has had primary custody. My husband gets SD on weekends and alternating holidays and birthdays. This past weekend, my SD asked my husband if she could come live with him full time. Her mom recently moved in with her fiancé and his kids, and there has been some friction with that, from what I understand. Nothing nefarious, just a new house, new rules, having to share a bedroom, etc. My husband didn't give her an answer either way. He said he would look into it. When he and I were discussing it, I had the following objections. SD and our kids do not get along. It is something we have worked on for years, in and out of therapy, and it just ain't happening. SD resents mine for existing, and is cruel towards my youngest for their disabilities. There have been issues with her bullying. My oldest is very protective of his little brother and hates SD for being mean to his brother. He has started physical altercations with her over it. The truth is that most of the time we have SD. I make arrangements to take the boys to visit their grandparents, or my husband takes her out of the house for daddy-daughter time to avoid conflict. I cannot imagine how living together full-time would be for them. We really don't have room. We have a 4-bedroom home. Both my husband and I will be caregivers for my youngest. Due to the nature of his disabilities, it is really not feasible for him and my oldest to share a room. It wouldn't be safe or fair for my oldest. My SD's room is used as my WFH office space during the week. I arrange my vacation time and whatnot around her visitation, so I can stay out of her space while she is here. I have to take very sensitive phone calls, and I need a closed door when I work, so common areas are out. And my husband uses our bedroom as his home office, so that's out too. We don't currently have room in the budget to make an addition to the house or remodel non-livable spaces at the moment. My husband hears my objections and understands them, but he wants to go for it and figures that everything will eventually work out. He doesn't want his daughter to think he is abandoning her, and I feel for the girl. It would be awful for your dad to say no when you ask if you can live with him. But I have my own kids to think about too, and I just do not believe that her living here is in their best interest at all, considering their history and our current living arrangements. Does saying no to this put me in evil stepmother territory? Edit. For the people who want to make me into a horrible homewrecker, to go along with being an evil stepmom. Sorry to disappoint you, but we did not have an affair. My husband and my stepdaughter's mom were never married. They were never in a relationship. They were friends with benefits. They bartended together, would shoot the bull, and would sometimes get drunk, and my husband claims he needed beer glasses because she really isn't his type. When SD's mom found out she was pregnant, she told my husband she was keeping it and asked if he wanted to be in the baby's life. They never lived together, except for a few weeks during the newborn stage to help out. Yes, I had my first before I married my husband. My husband and I were in a long-term relationship when I had a birth control malfunction. My husband and I discussed what we wanted to do, and we both decided we wanted to raise the child. A few days later, my husband proposed. I wanted to take time to recover from birth and wait until our kiddo was old enough to pawn him off on the grandparents for the week so my husband and I could enjoy our wedding. We didn't get married until my oldest was 2. Edit 2. Regarding my youngest son's disabilities, SD's bullying, and my oldest starting fights, since there is a lot of projection and speculation. My youngest son has both physical and mental disabilities. He uses multiple kinds of medical and therapy equipment. My SD has shoved him out of his wheelchair. She has pinched him hard enough to leave bruises. She hit his face when he was having trouble verbalizing. I doubt if this is normal sibling behavior. It is alarming enough to me that I feel it is best for my youngest to spend as little time as possible with her until this behavior completely stops, and I will say it has lessened quite a bit. We went through a period of it happening frequently, and it has slowed. The last incident was 2 months ago when SD grabbed my son's wheelchair and aggressively pushed him out of her way because he was blocking the hallway. One of the times that my son had started an altercation with her was because she had told my son that his brother was not a real person, and that she was going to call the hospital to have him taken away so they could perform experiments to find out what it was. She went into detail about the things they would do to him, like ripping his fingernails out. And yes, my son did lose his temper and hit her. My son was immediately disciplined, loss of tablet time. and we had an age-appropriate discussion about how his heart is in the right place to want to protect his little brother. But he needs to find an adult when something like that happens. This was not made up. My stepdaughter admitted she said it to my husband when he was able to sit her down and talk with her later in the day. I am not allowed to discipline or have parenting talks with SD per my mom's wishes. I am not welcome to be a part of SD's therapy journey, mostly per mom's wishes. She does not want me involved. My husband has always been worried about rocking the boat with mom on these things. So I do not know the extent of the therapeutic treatments she has had. I do know she does go to therapy during the week, and my husband has gone to sessions, but it isn't something he is free to discuss with me. So I am in the dark about that. Edit 3. There's someone in the comments who claims to be my sister-in-law. They are either trolls or mistaken. My husband is an only child. I don't have a sister-in-law. AITA has no consensus bot. The OP was NTA. Relevant comments. Crimson Wolf 83. NTA. It seems your stepdaughter is the single most common factor in the issues with blended families. She only wants to live full-time with you because she's been spoiled by the efforts you make to keep the peace on weekends. She's delusional. OP. I do believe she has a very different idea of what living here full-time would be than the reality of it. Yes, but she's a kid. When she is here, 90% of dad's attention is on her because of the visitation arrangement and interpersonal issues between her and our sons. I honestly don't think she is going to like the daily grind here any more than she does at her new house. Too early to think. My concern would be why she wants to leave. Is there more to this story? If she wants to leave because of abuse or neglect, then I think that while moving in may not be a permanent solution, doing nothing would make it a. That being said, if she wanted to leave for something minor, she wasn't allowed to stay up late on a weekend. Then I think the bio-parents need to have a system and sort it out. OP. She is upset that she has to share a room with her soon-to-be stepsister. The stepsister is moving out in the fall and just needs it for weekends at home and holiday breaks. And bio-mom and her partner decided that all kids would follow the same set of rules in their household. So she has new limitations about screen time and more household responsibilities. Nothing is nefarious like abuse or neglect. OP on having all spaces for all kids, including SD, and should prioritize the children's spaces over her office space. OP. The house had plenty of room for 3 kids when we bought it. Unfortunately, when my son was 8 months old, he had a seizure. And then, very quickly after that first seizure, 11 more as we raced to the emergency room. After that, all of our lives changed forever. Both my husband and I had to restructure our entire careers to provide the level of care he has needed. If I do not prioritize my desk, then none of the kids are going to have a home. That's just the reality that we face. Both my husband and I need to work in order to keep our home, keep up with medical expenses, and keep everyone housed, clothed, and fed. We've done our best to make sure that SD still feels like it's her room. It is decorated the way she wants. She has permanent personal items here. She keeps a closet full of her own clothes, so she doesn't have to pack between homes. We've given her a locking trunk for privacy. But yeah, I need to have office space to keep my job. So the rule is that she clears off the desk before leaving, and I put up a room divider in that corner and make myself a little cubicle when she is not here. I have to have a private space with a door for my job. I will be fired if I do not have that. I cannot work in common areas. My company takes client privacy and security very seriously. OP on the relationship between her children and her husband-father. His relationship with SD's mom. Yes, I had my first with my husband before we were married. He proposed to me after we found out I was pregnant, and I wanted to take some time after the birth of our first child before we got married. My husband and my SD's bio-mom were never married and never in a relationship. They had a casual sexual relationship. Update. First post. So last week, my husband and I sat down together and talked about SD coming to live with us full-time and how that would work out. It was a difficult discussion because, as some Redditors had suggested, I really pushed hard for him to really think things through and figure out the obstacles. Where would he and I work? Common areas are out due to the nature of our jobs. I can't due to employer restrictions. He does some NFW things in his house, which we don't want the kids to see. How are we going to handle the animosity and bullying between the kids? What consequences would be in place? We talked about what expectations would be for SD living here full-time versus just weekends. About how she probably has unrealistic expectations about what the nitty-gritty life here is like. We talked through every possibility we could come up with, including out there possibilities like selling out our home or separating our household and living apart for a while. We ran numbers to see how it might affect our finances. And ultimately, we agreed that the answer was not yet, with a goal for our family to work towards. And that the best course of action would be to slowly adjust the amount of time she spends in our home versus a sudden custody switch. So Friday night, my husband took SD out to talk to her about everything. He explained to her that she wouldn't have her own room at our place for a couple years. But that is something that is on the top of the list for home improvements once our youngest's handicap accessibility renovations are paid off. He talked to her about what her expectations of living with us would be. She would have chores and responsibilities. And most importantly, they talked about the bullying and laid down the provisions that we needed to see her relationship and attitude towards her brothers improve before she can live here full-time. SD obviously wasn't thrilled about any of this, but she said okay, and that she would do better with her brothers. So Saturday, I made arrangements for my parents to watch our sons. And we invited SD's mom over so we could all sit down and figure out how SD can start to spend more time here. And that is when it fell apart. Mom is not okay with a change in custody at all. Absolutely not, was her answer. She took SD home early on Saturday. My husband tried to reach out to SD on Sunday to see how she was and ask if she wanted to do their guitar lesson over Skype or something since her mom took her home early, but she never responded. He called SD's mom, and she informed him that SD had lost her phone privileges. So we don't really know what is going on with all that. Relevant comments. OP on why SD lost her phone privileges when SD was with her mother. It turns out she threw her phone at her mom's face, hitting her and cracking the screen. Mom isn't giving it back until SD has paid off the deductible. We do have alternative forms of contact with SD at this time. OP on her SD's reasons for wanting to live with her dad and her. And if the bio mom knew about the plans. OP, no, SD's mom didn't come to us. SD asked the weekend before last if she could live with us instead, because she and her mom recently moved in with her mom's partner. My husband told her that we would need to discuss it and figure out if it was a possibility. We didn't talk to bio mom until after we knew what our answer was. As soon as mom found out SD wanted to spend more time with us, she shut it down immediately. I know a lot of people have been speculating that my SD may be being abused in the comments. And I understand the concern. And I know that it can happen to anyone. But I don't have any reason to believe that is happening here. Mom's new partner isn't exactly new. They've been together for 5 or 6 years, I think now. SD has spent lots of time with her soon-to-be stepdad. Moving in together is the new thing. My SD does have a good relationship with my husband, and she has not confided anything to my husband about stepdad making her uncomfortable. I believe that she would, but I won't discount the possibility that she wouldn't. From my understanding, the issues in her new home have more to do with having to share her bedroom with her soon-to-be stepmother and adjusting to a new set of household rules. OP on what her husband does for a living. OP. Nothing exciting. He does video editing. He has clients who do adultery. They send him the raw footage they film, and he makes it into saleable videos for them, teaser trailers and stuff. He also edits YouTube videos, special event videos, and even local commercials. The way we see it, everyone's money is spent the same. Lol, one day, he edits the commercial for the local church's annual yard sale, and the next, some hot chick gets a Cleveland steamer. We just have to be really careful about when and where he edits the naughtier videos, so none of the kids walk in on him. We try to make sure he only does those when I'm not working, so he can stay behind a locked door with headphones on. Second story. The saga of OP's boyfriend, who blamed himself for his niece's death for the past 14 years, and never interacted with any kid from that day on. Sorry, this is going to be a long one. I 27F have been with my boyfriend 28M, J for 5 years. We've both been very close with each other's families, and we've even talked about marriage. However, one touchy subject is children. Whenever we discuss it, he gets kind of standoffish. He doesn't really dismiss the idea though. It's just that he doesn't seem invested. I've always wanted kids, and he just always says he's fine with whatever makes me happy. Ever since, I've been content with this situation. However, things escalated during the holiday season. Our setup has always been that Jay spends Christmas Eve and dinner with my family. Then I spend Christmas Day with his family. This was the first Christmas I'd spend with my first and only niece 2F Anna. She spent her first Christmas in the hospital due to her health condition. But she's okay now, so I made sure to spend a lot of time with her. We played a lot, we opened gifts together, and I even reenacted Anna's favorite storybook using her favorite doll. We even had matching outfits. My sister 30F, Amy, thanked me for giving her and her husband some relief from childcare the entire day. However, Amy also said she noticed that Jay, who was just either sitting on the couch watching me or helping my mom with the dishes, was kind of distant with Anna. I told her I've also noticed that before, and I just chalked it up to maybe Jay was hesitant and awkward to play with Anna because he feels he's just my boyfriend. Then Amy said she wouldn't mind, since she and her husband already treat Jay as part of our family. I then went back to Jay and encouraged him to play with Anna and help us set up her new dollhouse, but he said he's not feeling too well. He ended up drinking a few more beers and stayed on the porch by himself, scrolling on his phone. I didn't press harder and thought he might really just be feeling under the weather. I just want to add for context that Jay isn't an alcoholic. He's a sweet, wonderful, funny man who's sometimes broody and deep in thought, but he's never abusive, manipulative, or moody, and he only drinks on special occasions. The next day, on Christmas Day, we had lunch with Jay's family. Afterward, I volunteered for cleanup to help Jay's mom 62F, Mary, and brother 31M John. Jay's family was the best any significant other could ever ask for. They're very sweet and supportive of us, but they're never prying. They always check up on us, but they never overstep. So as we were cleaning up, Mary asked me how my sister's baby was. They helped with the bills when Anna was hospitalized last year. I told them that Anna's in great condition now, and that she already spent Christmas at home. They were very delighted upon hearing this. Then, I shared with them the things I noticed about Jay. Initially, I thought maybe Mary could just give me advice on how to approach the issue with Jay, since he's clearly not the playing with kids kind of guy. But then John casually said something like, "Oh, because of Rosie," and Mary quickly shushed him. Rosie was the daughter of Jay and John's eldest sister, Beth 35F. I never knew the actual details because everyone was very secretive about it. But all I knew was that Rosie passed away when she was just 3 years old, and Beth and her husband moved away afterward. I never met them in person. So, later that night, when Mary, John, and the other family members got a bit more drunk and Jay was already sleeping in the bedroom, they told me the story. I didn't force them or anything. Apparently Jay, being the youngest of the siblings, was really close with Rosie back then. Jay was just around 14 years old when Rosie was born, so he became the super fun uncle like I am now with Anna. He was actually Rosie's best friend. Then, in the summer of 2012, Jay was playing with Rosie outside. He was blowing bubbles, and she was chasing and popping them when a speeding car, driven by a woman who was distracted on her phone, skidded into the yard in Rosie's direction. Jay reacted quickly and was able to reach and grab Rosie, so the car actually hit him. But the impact of the crash caused Rosie's head to whiplash as Jay hugged her. Jay was in a coma for 3 days and had multiple severe injuries and internal bleeding, but Rosie didn't make it. Everything was caught by the neighbor's CCTV, so everyone knew that Jay was a hero for trying to protect Rosie. It was even covered by the local news. But Beth, who was understandably in grief, resented Jay for not being able to save her daughter. Beth and her husband then decided to move to another country to cope with their grief and start a new life, and they've had minimal contact with the family ever since. Jay, meanwhile, took the loss really hard. He blamed himself for not being able to save Rosie and not being able to attend her funeral since he was still at the hospital at that time. Mary said that Jay was never the same after that. He never went near kids, and he became a lot colder, quieter, more reserved, and antisocial. He also had anger issues, but they thankfully went away. I haven't had any issues with this. We also live in an area where people don't believe in therapy, so Jay never received professional help. After learning all of this, I bawled my eyes out because I never knew Jay was carrying such a heavy burden. The whole incident became a taboo family secret that no one mentions in fear of Jay breaking down or doing something he might regret, although to be fair, he's never had violent or self-harm tendencies ever since. So this was just a precaution. They also never told me before because they assumed Jay would be the one to tell me. But I told them that he never did, and that I never really asked him. I then thanked everyone for letting me in on this, and I told them that I'd talk to Jay about it when the time was right. They understood, and they said I could just ring them up if I needed help or support in any way. For now, I just want Jay to enjoy the holidays and his remaining vacation days from work. Now, I don't really know how to start with him. I know seeking professional help to process all the trauma and grief, even if it's been over a decade, would be the top priority, but I don't know how to bring it up to him. I don't even know when the right time is to bring it up. I just want him to know that I love him no matter what, and that I'll support him in every step toward his healing, especially if we're to form a family of our own. Comments. Dissenter 2023. Jay is absolutely a better man than me. Loving life at Mitch. Jay is amazing. What a shame his sister blamed him. But I guess that's what grief does to you. I hope he gets the therapy he needs. OP. From what I gathered from Jay's family, Beth never really voiced out that she blamed Jay for Rosie's passing. However, she became cold toward him to the point of almost ignoring him during family gatherings before they moved. Of course, everyone knew what it was all about. Penetrator. It's possible that after some time, Beth realized she was wrong, but is now burdened with shame for even thinking of blaming her brother for Rosie. Grief and shame make people do weird things. Kedri. Don't bring it up. Let him come to you when he's ready. He might get pissed that they told you, because this is his story to tell you when he's ready. OP. Yeah, this was what I was leaning toward as well. I just hope it happens sooner so his pain and sadness don't consume him any more than they already have. Update. 4 months later. Hi, it's been a while since my first post. I have some major updates for anyone interested. You may check my profile for my previous post. Also, I took some time to organize my thoughts first to make sure I didn't miss anything pertinent. It's kind of long, as a lot has happened since, so I've divided this into sections to make it easier to follow. Quick recap. My boyfriend Jay and I have been together for 5 years. Throughout our relationship, I've noticed that he's always distant with kids, including my niece Anna. During Christmas, Jay's family revealed that it was because of an incident over a decade ago. It turns out that Jay was really close with his toddler niece Rosie. One day, when they were playing outside, they were hit by a distracted driver. Jay tried to save Rosie. He sustained severe injuries, but Rosie still didn't make it. Beth, Rosie's mom, and Jay's sister acted cold toward Jay after this, and then she and her husband moved to another country after a few months. From then on, Jay's personality changed, becoming cold and antisocial, and he never received professional help. All of this has become Jay's family's dirty secret. Part 1. The confession. Since learning about Rosie and posting here on Reddit, I've been so conflicted about what to do. A lot of you had opposing opinions, and all of them had merit. But knowing Jay and how he'd most likely react, I chose to keep it a secret until I found the perfect time. What I didn't anticipate was that the perfect time would come in the form of a pregnancy scare. Back in January, I had a false positive. Everything happened so quickly within a day. I had a roller coaster of emotions, but the bottom line was that I'm not pregnant after all. When Jay got back home that night, I knew I had to tell him everything. I told him I had a pregnancy scare, but he has nothing to worry about since it ended up being negative. At that moment, I saw all the blood drain from his face, and he became so pale that I was worried he was going to faint. I was holding his hand, and he became so sweaty, cold, and shaky. He rushed to our refrigerator to get some water, and it was obvious he was spiraling really hard. That was when I told him I knew about Rosie. I came clean because I knew that was what he was panicking about. I assured him that I'm by his side, and he could react however he wanted to. I repeatedly apologized for disrespecting his trust and lying to him for weeks. I also asked him to please not be mad at his family, because they meant well when they told me. Throughout all of it, I couldn't really read Jay's expressions. I wasn't sure if he was about to scream out of anger or burst into tears. I told him that we don't have to talk about it any further if he doesn't want to. But I'd be willing to listen and support him whenever he's ready. His only response that time was him asking me if I wanted to break up with him, which confused me. I told him of course not. Then we hugged, and he said he needed some time to process everything before we discussed it, which I respected. For the rest of the week, we tried to interact like nothing happened, but everything was awkward since there's this huge thing hanging between us. Part 2. The talk. The following weekend, which was 8 days later, we finally sat down and talked about everything. He started by apologizing for not telling me sooner, but he revealed that his last girlfriend dumped him after he told her about Rosie. He said he was so relieved after I reassured him that I wouldn't do that. He then told me that it was something that's been weighing him down ever since, and he's confirmed that he never sought or received professional help. However, he said he's very much open to doing that, but he doesn't think he's ready yet. He also said he's afraid to go down that path, because it might release some inner demons and drag me down with him. Another thing Jay told me was that ever since Rosie was born, he felt an instant and deep connection and a sense of responsibility for her, even when he was just a teenager at the time. He said that having Rosie in his life made him realize how much he wanted to be a father when he's older. However, since the incident, he's afraid of messing things up again, so he never really considered having kids from then on, despite really wanting to do so. I then reassured him that we're on the same page on this. Although I also want to have kids with him in the future, I don't want to force it on him when he's not yet ready. He also said that whenever he sees me with Anna, my niece, he gets kind of jealous because he wants to join us every time. However, he constantly reminds himself to keep his distance just to be safe. I told him he doesn't have to worry about that, and that he's more than welcome to join us if he wants to. I also told him that my sister and the rest of my family actually consider him a part of our family, just to reassure him more. Jay tried to lighten the mood by joking and saying that now that I know everything about him and still haven't broken up with him, I could finally expect a proposal anytime soon. We both had a good laugh, but we agreed to wait for his recovery first before getting engaged or discussing our future family. Part 3. Beth. During our discussion, Jay also had another heartbreaking revelation. He said that during the height of the pandemic, Beth's husband Brian reached out to him. Brian said that Beth had COVID and was confined in a hospital, and that he was already running low on funds due to bills and unemployment. He also said that Beth had been almost catatonic since Rosie's passing. She had been resistant to any outside or professional help, but she was institutionalized for about a year after a self-harming incident. For the past decade, she's been cold, distant, and withdrawn from society. Apparently, the rest of Jay's family also knew about all this, but again, they just swept it under the rug. To be fair, they had been helping Brian by sending financial aid to support Beth. But their version of the story was that Beth had just gone out of contact since they moved. Also, to be very clear, Jay said that Beth never blamed him for what happened to Rosie, although he initially felt that way when he was younger. It was more of their parents interpreting and spinning things a certain way to avoid tarnishing their family's reputation. But when Brian reached out to him directly years ago, he started to understand better. However, he still hasn't processed everything, and he still partly blames himself for the whole thing. Part 4. Our current situation. For now, what we're exploring is couples therapy, so we can discuss our mutual issues in a safe and pressure-free space, and hopefully ease him into the world of therapy. We've already found the perfect therapist to help us, and we've now had 6 sessions with her. From what I can tell, Jay seems to be a lot happier and less burdened. We've also had homework from our sessions, and Jay was even the one reminding me to do it. Right now, I'm just hoping that he becomes ready enough to open up about Rosie so he can heal and recover from his trauma. Not for me, but for his mental and emotional well-being. No rush though, all in his own time. Also, Jay has no social media, but I showed him the original Reddit post I made. He spent like 3 hours reading through all the comments. It was the first time I saw him get teary-eyed, because he never expected so many people giving him support and saying kind words to him. He was extremely overwhelmed by everyone's kindness, so we're both grateful to all of you for that. We also saw some TikTok and YouTube versions of the story, and you bet Jay browsed through all of them. He's still baffled why the TikTok versions have Minecraft or cooking videos in the background. But I just told him it's a trend. So there, if you've made it this far into our story, thank you for your time. I have a good feeling that Jay and I are going to be fine. We still have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but here's to hoping for the best. Edit. So Jay and I now kind of share this account. He might reply directly from time to time. This is his first time on Reddit, so please be kind to him. I had to explain to him what OP and a lot of the other lingo mean, haha. Yeah, but we're both reading everything. Again, thank you for being so kind. Comments. Demon48. I hope Jay continues healing, and that eventually Beth somehow gets out of the mental hole she's in. Both of them went through something so horrible that no one who hasn't been in that situation can comprehend. Thoughts for both of them. OP, thank you for your kind words. As for Jay, I can see that he's already making some progress, even though it's more like baby steps. Nonetheless, it is still progress. As for Beth, I can't even begin to imagine what she's going through. I just pray that she finally finds some peace. Lions99. I'm so happy with this update that now Jay knows that you're on his side and is getting professional help. What happened to Rose was a tragedy, and it wasn't his fault at all. My heart hurts to think of the weight he must be carrying all this time. I wish you two all the best. OP. Yeah, he's starting to open up more about his internal struggles and burdens, but he hasn't touched on the subject of Rosie yet. The least I can do for him is to let him know I'm here for him. Thank you for your kind words, Fulafalafel. I hope the driver who killed the kid is rotting in prison, but with the sick car culture that exists in most countries, I doubt it. OP. She did 1 year of jail time and 5 years of probation. Not sure how much was really served. OP replies to a deleted comment about Jay's family. I won't make excuses for them. On a human, personal level, they are extremely lovely, generous, and kind people. They have welcomed me as a part of their family, and they even extended help when my sister's daughter, Anna, had congenital health problems. I have met different relatives of my exes before, and in comparison, Jay's family has been the most wonderful and welcoming. However, I would say that they are a product of the very traditional, non-progressive area in which we live. We are a Catholic community, and most activities revolve around our parish. Reputation is everything, yet town gossip is still rampant. I understand that this may sound backward thinking in our modern times, but that is the reality of our lives. I also grew up in the same area, so I fully understand their behavior. Although I agree with you that everything that happened and how they reacted to it was unfortunate, to say the least. Jay and Beth got the brunt of it. Dookie off couch. I'm so sorry for asking, but I'm really baffled here. Jay was a victim as well. He was in an accident. So what kind of reputation was to be saved? And why did they let Jay feel like it was his fault? What town gossip can possibly be there from this awful accident? I can't wrap my head around this. I truly hope Jay can find his much-deserved peace, especially with Beth and Brian. And you are an angel. OP. I'm honestly just as confused as well. I don't think the intention was to make Jay feel like he was at fault. I think the intention was to just not talk about it at all, and make it seem like it never happened. Like a family secret never to be brought up so the bomb doesn't go off or something. Being rational definitely wasn't a priority, and unfortunately, it was Jay and Beth who suffered. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.